Hello, welcome to our channel Learn to Score. In this video, I am going to solve section 1, part A of class 10th mathematics model paper for year 2021 Telangana State Board exam. Please subscribe to our channel for regular updates. In the upcoming videos, I am going to solve rest of the paper and important questions from various chapters. Please share this video with your friends so that it can benefit them also. Thank you. In part A, you have three sections, section 1, section 2 and section 3. Section 1 has two groups, group A and group B. In each group, you are given 6 questions. Out of that, you have to choose 3 questions. Each question carries 2 marks. It means for group A, you are going to get 3 times 2, that is equal to 6 marks, and group B, 6 marks. Total section 1, 12 marks. These are the questions given for group A. Total 6 questions are there. You have a choice of selecting 3 questions, but since it is for practice purpose, I'm going to solve all the problems. But when you write 3 questions out of this, you will be getting 6 marks for group A. Let us start with questions. Question number 1. Find HCF and LCM of 220 and 284 by prime factorization. 220 can be written as 2 times 110. Here 2 is the prime number and 110 is composite number. You can write 110 as product of 2 and 55. Here 55 is composite number. 55 can be written as 5 times 11. 5 and 11 both are prime numbers. That's why we stop here and write 220 as 2 times 2 times 5 times 11. Right? This can also be written as 2 square times 5 times 11. Right? Now let's find prime factors for 284. 284 can be written as 2 times 142. 142 can be written as 2 times 71. Here 71 is the prime number. That's why we stop this process here and write 284 as 2 times 2 times 71. Right? That can be written as 2 square times 71. Right? Now we have to find HCF and LCM. We have done prime factorization. We have to find HCF and LCM of these two numbers. HCF is defined as product of smallest power of each common prime factors. Here the point you have to note is common prime factors is one thing and smallest power, right? If you observe here, you have 2 as the common prime factor for both. Rest of the numbers are not common, right? For both the 220 and 284. That's why we say 2 is the only common prime factor and its smallest power is 2 again. This is what we are referring to, this particular 2 or this particular 2. If there is different number, you would be considering the smallest. Since these two are same, you consider any of this number. You say smallest power of 2 is 2. It means HCF is going to be 2 square, that is equal to 4. Now let's see what is LCM. LCM is defined as product of the greatest power, please note this, of each prime factors. Here it was said for HCF it was said common prime factors, whereas here for LCM it is said that each prime factor. It means you would be taking 2, 5, 11 and 71. These are the all prime factors, right? So you have 2, 5, 11 and 71 and you have to now consider the greatest power. In the case of 2, you have greatest power or smallest power, that is same, that is equal to 2. In case of 1, in case of 5, you have 1, 11 you have 1 and 71 you have 1, right? Those are the powers. So now let's write that highest power of 2 is 2, highest power of 5, 11 and 71 is just 1, right? Now let's get the LCM, that is 2 square times 5 power 1 times 11 power 1 times 71 power 1. When you multiply all these, you will get the answer as 15,620. If you observe, these 3 are equal to 220, right? That's why you can simply say that 220 times 71, that is equal to 15,620. So let's write that LCM is 15,620. So we solved the problem. We got HCF as 4 and LCM as 15,620. Now let's go to the next question. That is question number 2. Check whether A equal to x colon x square equal to 25 and 6x equal to 15 is an empty set or not. Justify your answer. The set given in set builder form can be read as A is a set of elements x such that x square is equal to 25 and 6x is equal to 15. You see, x square is equal to 25 and 6x equal to 15. Here this and is very important. Okay, now let's see, x square is equal to 25 means what? It means x can be plus 5 or minus 5, right? And 6x is equal to 15 means what? 6x equal to 15 can be written as x equal to 15 by 6. It means 5 by 2, right? Now you see, now the and comes into the picture. The numbers you have here are plus 5 minus 5. And this is 5 by 2. It is not any of these two numbers, right? It is not any of plus 5 or minus 5. It is a different number, 5 by 2 or 2.5. It says that no common elements present. For example, if it was given like 3x, then you could have gotten x equal to 5. It means you have 5 as the element. But since you are getting 5 by 2 here and plus 5 and minus 5 here, you are not getting any common element in between this statement and this statement. When you have this and here, you are looking for the common elements, right? If it is R, that is a different story. If it is R, you will be having plus 5, minus 5 and 5 by 2 also as part of the set. I hope you understood the concept. Since no elements are there, you can write the set in the roster form as A equal to null set or empty set, right? So to answer the question, you can say that the given set A is an empty set. Let's take a look at the next question. That is question number 3. The sum of zeros of a quadratic polynomial kx square minus 3x plus 1 is 1. Find the value of k. You're given a quadratic polynomial and it was said that sum of zeros of the given quadratic polynomial is 1 and we are asked to find the value of k. We know that for quadratic polynomial f of x equal to ax square plus bx plus c, we can write sum of zeros as negative of quotient of x divided by quotient of x square, right? It means it is minus b by a, right? You must have learned this in polynomials chapter. And we know that product of zeros can be written as constant divided by quotient of x square. But this is not important for us in this particular problem. So all we need is sum of zeros, that is expressed as minus quotient of x divided by quotient of x square. Here quotient of x is minus 3, right? Quotient of x square is k. So sum of zeros is given, that is given in the problem statement. So I can write it now as negative of quotient of x divided by quotient of x square equal to minus of minus 3 divided by k, that is equal to 1, right? This can be now written as 3 by k equal to 1, right? It means k equal to 3. So to answer the question, if sum of the zeros of given quadratic polynomial kx square minus 3x plus 1 is 1, then k is 1. In other words, you can say that that is the given polynomial is x square minus 3x plus 1, right? Let us solve the next problem. That is question number 4. Find two numbers where sum is 27 and product is 182. This problem can be solved by making use of the formulas we have given. for sum of zeros and product of zeros, right? But here I am taking a different approach altogether. Let's assume that these two numbers given are x and y. Since their sum is 27, I can say that x plus y equal to 27. And their product is 182. It means x times y equal to 182, right? The first equation, x plus y equal to 27, can be written as y equal to 27 minus x, right? So let's substitute y equal to 27 minus x into xy equal to 182. When you do that, you will get x times 27 minus x equal to 182. This can be now written as 27x minus x square equal to 182, right? Let's take x square onto the other side, 27x also to the other side, such that it can be written as x square minus 27x plus 182 equal to 0. This is the quadratic equation. We want to solve this quadratic equation to find the value of x. Once you know the value of x, you can substitute the value of x into this equation such that you will get y. So we'll have answer for both the numbers, meaning you know value of x and value of y. It means you know what are those two numbers whose sum is becoming 27 and product is becoming 182, right? We know for ax square plus bx plus c equal to 0, the quadratic formula defines the roots as x equal to minus b plus or minus square root of b square minus 4ac divided by 2a, right? Let's compare the given equation x square minus 27x plus 182 equal to 0 with ax square plus bx plus c equal to 0. So that you can say a equal to 1, b equal to minus 27 and c equal to 182, right? Now let's substitute these values into this particular formula we have written now. X equal to minus b plus or minus square root of b square minus 4ac divided by 2a, right? When you substitute, you will get plus 27 plus or minus square root of minus 27 whole square minus 4 times 182 divided by 2, right? 27 whole square is 729. 4 times 182 is 728. Now, in the square root, you have only 1 as the answer, right? So, now it can be written as 27 plus or minus 1 divided by 2. If I take plus, it becomes 27 plus 1 divided by 2. It means it is 28 by 2, that is equal to 14. If I take negative sign, it is going to be 27 minus 1 divided by 2. It means x equal to 26 by 2, that is equal to 13, right? One can take any of these two values, x equal to 14 or 13, and go back to the actual equations we have written. I'm taking x equal to 14 and substituting that into this particular equation, y equal to 27 minus x, right? When you substitute, you will get y equal to 27 minus 14, that is equal to 13, right? If you take x equal to 13 here, you will be getting y as 14. That's why I'm not doing that. The numbers we are looking for are 13 and 14. Their sum 13 plus 14 is 27. Their product, that is 14 times 13, is 182. Right? Let's go to the next question. That is question number 5. Formulate a pair of linear equations in two variables. 3 pens and 4 books together cost 50 rupees. Where 5 pens and 3 books together cost 54 rupees. Let me assume that price of 1 pen is x rupees. And price of 1 book is y rupees. 3 pens plus 4 books costed 50 rupees. It means I can write it as 3 times x plus 4 times y equal to 50, right? This can be rearranged and written as 3x plus 4y minus 50 equal to 0. This is one equation we have obtained for the first statement, right? Let's write the next statement, that is 5 pens and 3 books together cost 54 rupees. This can be written as 5x plus 3y equal to 54, right? Let me rearrange and write it as 5x plus 3y minus 54 equal to 0. So to answer the question, the pair of linear equations in two variables are 3x plus 4y minus 50 equal to 0, 5x plus 3y minus 54 equal to 0. Let's go to the next question now. That is question number 6. Verify that the points 1, 5, 2, 3, minus 2 comma minus 1 are collinear or not. Collinear means they have to be on the same line, right? Let us consider points A, B, C and D. If you draw a straight line, it passes through point A, point B and point C as shown in the figure, right? Hence, we say that point A, B and C are collinear points, right? Let's take distance between points A and B. I'm calling it as line AB. B and C, that is line BC. A and C, that is line AC. Distance between AB, distance between BC, and distance between AC. If you observe, you can say that length of AB plus length of BC equal to length of AC, right? As you see here, point A, point B and point D are not falling on the same line and they are not collinear. For that, if you take distances AB, BD and AD, you can say that length of AB plus length of BD is not equal to length of AD because they are forming a triangle, right? If 3 points are not collinear, they form a triangle, right? Let's take a note of this. When 3 points are collinear, sum of distances between two pairs of 3 points is equal to the distance between third pair of points. You understood? If I take AB and BC, their distance, sum of their distances is equal to the distance between point A and point C. This order can differ for different problems, but in this case, actually AB plus BC is becoming AC, right? Let's take a note of this and go back to our original problem. Now we have to find distance between pairs of points, meaning this is one pair, these two are another pair, and these two are another pair, right? We know the distance between 2 points x1 comma y1 and x2 comma y2 can be written as square root of x2 minus x1 whole square plus y2 minus y1 whole square, right? Let's make use of this formula to obtain the distance between the points. Let's find distance between points 1, 5 and 2, 3. I'm calling point 1, 5 as A and 2, 3 as B, such that the line segment I get is AB. That can be now written as square root of 2 minus 1 whole square. This is 2 minus 1 whole square plus 3 minus 5 whole square, right? This can be simplified and written as 1 square plus minus 2 whole square. 1 square is 1, minus 2 whole square is 4. So it is square root of 1 plus 4. It means it is square root of 5. Let me write the value of square root of 5, that is 2.236. Now let's go to the next pair. Let's find distance between 2, 3 and minus 2 and minus 1. I'm calling minus 2 and minus 1 as C, so that I'll get the distance at the line segment as BC. That can be now written as x2 minus x1 whole square, x2 minus x1 whole square, that is minus 2 minus 2 whole square, y2 minus y1 whole square, minus 1 minus 3 whole square, right? When you simplify it, you get it as square root of 32, that is equal to 5.675. Please take a note of this. Now let's go to the third pair, that is A and C. A is 1 comma 5 and C is minus 2 comma minus 1. Now x2 minus x1 whole square plus y2 minus y1 whole square under root. That is what we have written, right? When you simplify it, you get it as square root of 45. That is equal to 6.708. We know that we want to take sum of two line segments and see whether that is matching with the third line segment, right? For that, what we have to do is you have to take the smallest possible numbers first and sum them and see whether the third one is equal to the sum or not. In this case, I am taking 2.236 and 5.675 and sum them. The sum is 7.893, whereas you expect it to be 6.708 when it is a collinear set of collinear points. What does it mean? Since 7.893 is greater than 6.708, these points are forming a triangle rather than collinear. Let's write that. Since sum of two of these distances is greater than the third distance, the given points are not collinear. I hope you got the concept. Now let us see group B. Group B has got 6 questions. You have to answer 3 questions from these such that you will get 6 marks. The 7th question of the paper is find the mode of data 5, 6, 9, 6, 12, 3, 6, 11, 6 and 7. Mode is defined as the following. The mode is the value of the observation which occurs most frequently. Please note this. Value of the observation which occurs most frequently. It means the observation with maximum frequency is called the mode. So to get that picture clear, let's arrange the given data in one of the order, ascending or descending. I chose to arrange it in ascending order. So you write 3, 5, 6 appears 4 times, 7 appears only once, then 9, 11 and 12, right? As you see here, 6 is the only number which has appeared most frequently, right? Since 6 has occurred most frequently, that is 4 times, we say that 6 is the mode of the given data. This is what we are asked to find. Let's go to the next question. That is question number 8. Express tan alpha in terms of sin alpha. This is from trigonometry chapter. We know that tan alpha can be written as sin alpha by cos alpha, right? Here numerator is in sin, but denominator is not in sin, it is in cos. We are asked to write, or we are asked to express tan alpha in terms of sin alpha. So we have to convert the cos alpha into sin function. How do we do that? You may recall that there is a trigonometric identity, that is cos square alpha plus sin square alpha equal to 1, right? I can rearrange it and write it as cos square alpha equal to 1 minus sin square alpha, right? It means cos alpha equal to square root of 1 minus sin square alpha, right? This is what we have to write for cos alpha in the denominator. When you write it, tan alpha can be written now as sin alpha divided by square root of 1 minus sin square alpha. This is what we are asked to find, or we are asked to write. Let's go to the next question, that is question number 9. A doctor observed the pulse rate of 4 students is 72, 3 students is 78, 2 students is 80. Find the mean of the pulse rate of the above students. Mean is defined as sum of all observations divided by number of observations, right? So let's write all the observations first. 72 4 times, then comes 78 3 times, and 80 2 times, right? This is for 4 students, this is for 3 students, and this is for 2 students. Let's take sum of these. 4 times 72 plus 3 times 78 plus 2 times 80 equal to 682. Sum of observations is 682. The number of observations is 4 students plus 3 students plus 2 students, that is 9, right? So now we can substitute 682 and 9 into the formula of mean, so that I can write mean equal to 682 divided by 9, that is 75.78. This is what we are asked to find, right? Let's write that. Mean of the pulse rate of the above students is 75.78. Let's go to the next question, that is question number 10. Find the area of required cloth to cover the heap of grain in conical shape, of whose diameter is 8 meters and slant height is 3 meters. The conical shape heap of grain in conical shape looks like this, right? Curved surface area is the surface area where you want to cover with cloth, right? That is defined as pi r L, where L is the slant length or slant height, R is radius of the cone at the base. This is your R, this is your L. Diameter is given, that is equal to 8. It means radius R is going to be 8 by 2, that is equal to 4. And slant height is given, that is L equal to 3. Now let's substitute these values into curved surface area formula, that is equal to pi r L. So I am assuming pi equal to 22 by 7, R is 4, we have obtained here, and slant height L is 3. So when you multiply all this, you get answer as 37.71. So to answer the question, area of required cloth to cover the heap of grain in conical shape is 37.71 meter square. This is what we are asked to find, right? Now let's go to the next question, that is question number 11. A die is thrown at once. Find the probability of getting an even prime number. It is an even prime number. What are the possible outcomes of throwing a dice? When you throw a dice, you will get either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6, right? The possible outcomes are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the sample space, right? So number of all possible outcomes now you can say 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Number of all possible outcomes is 6. We know that probability of event E is defined as number of outcomes favorable to event E divided by number of all possible outcomes of the experiment. We have seen this. All possible outcomes of the experiment is 6, already known. Number of outcomes favorable to event E is something we have to find. For that, we have to say what is your event. The event here is getting an even prime number. When you observe, the options you can get are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Here you may be having prime numbers 2, 3 and 5, but you want to have an even prime number. It means you have only 2 as the option, right? So event space is going to have only one number, that is 2, right? So the number of outcomes favorable to event E in this case is 1. That's why probability of event E, P of E, is going to be 1 divided by 6. 1 is the number of favorable outcomes, that is just 1 as per this, and divided by number of all possible outcomes of the experiment, that is 6 as given here. So probability of event E, that is getting an even prime number, is 1 by 6. Let's write that. Probability of getting an even prime number is 1 by 6. Now let's go to the next question. That is question number 12. Write the formula of median for a group data. Explain the symbols in words. This is from statistics chapter. Median can be written as L plus n by 2 minus CF divided by F times H. Here, L is called lower boundary of median class. N is number of observations. The total number of observations is denoted using N. F is frequency of median class. CF is cumulative frequency of class preceding the median class. And H is class size or size of the median class. In all these cases, you're talking about median class, lower boundary of median class, frequency of median class. The frequency, cumulative frequency of class preceding median class. Class size or median class size, right? What does it mean by median class? Median class is the earliest class whose cumulative frequency is greater than n by 2. You have to first find cumulative frequency of all given classes. And since number of observations n is known, you find what is the value of n by 2. And then you can say that which class is the median class. You got it? Once you have median class, you know lower bound of median class, you know frequency of median class, you know median class size, and you have to go one class below such that you can get cumulative frequency of the class previous to the median class. I hope you got the concept. I hope you like the video. Please like, share and subscribe to our channel Learn to Score. Thank you.